Hello and welcome to the Learning Love podcast. This is where we learn what love is and how to live a life of love in every area. My name is Dr. Mark A. Hicks, author of the book Learning Love. Love can be practical, tangible, and a realistic life for everyone, regardless of your relationship experiences so far. So thank you for joining me as we spend some time learning love.
Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. And today's question is, what about gratitude? What are the benefits? How does it help our relationships? And why is it so hard? If you struggle with gratitude, if you have a tendency to focus on negatives rather than positives, if you are quick to criticize but not as quick to compliment and to appreciate and to see the good side of things, it's not necessarily that you're a bad person. Don't beat yourself up. There's actually a good reason why we struggle with gratitude. Now, when this show airs, it'll be just a few days away from Thanksgiving. But if you're listening or watching this program any other time of year, all this stuff still applies. We don't need to just practice Thanksgiving during the Thanksgiving holiday. We need to show gratitude and practice giving thanks and being grateful all year long. And there's a reason for that. It's really good for you. If you do just a basic internet search about the benefits of gratitude, you're going to find a long list. You're going to see that there are a lot of health benefits. This can help you with your sleep, which obviously helps you in every area of life. It can help you with your blood pressure. Now, don't stop taking your blood pressure medication. It's not a cure-all, but it can help because it helps with things like stress, anxiety, depression. Again, it's not a cure-all. If you have a chronic condition of depression or anxiety, keep seeing your doctor, go to a therapist. These are treatable conditions, but practicing gratitude can help. And if your depression is more caused by your circumstances at the time, it's not a chronic condition, but you're really down about the way life's treating you right now, practicing gratitude can help. Now, it's easy to get into a mindset of, well, I have very little or I have nothing to be grateful for when we're experiencing a lot of problems. But again, there's a reason for that. As we learn what gratitude is and how to practice it, it becomes a very helpful thing for our physical health, our mental health, our emotions, every area of life. Practicing gratitude will help you, and it will help you in your relationships. Everybody likes to be appreciated. We all know how to criticize each other, but do we know how to appreciate the good things? Do we know how to show gratitude for the people in your life? Now, when you do that, people are going to respond. Everyone likes to be appreciated. Everyone likes to be complimented. Sometimes it can be awkward if we're not used to it, but again, that's because we haven't practiced it. When we compliment and we learn to take compliments, give compliments, and appreciate the good things about one another, it builds trust, it builds connection, it builds healthy, happy relationships. And so gratitude can do a lot of things for you. It can help you physically, it can help you mentally and emotionally, and it can help build trust and connection and appreciation within your relationships, at home, at work, in the neighborhood, wherever you have friendships, wherever you have family connections, wherever you are working with someone or enjoying life with the people around you. When you show gratitude, it makes a difference in those relationships. So, if something is so good for us and it helps us in so many areas, including building happy, healthy relationships, why is it so hard? Why is it so easy to criticize and to see all the bad stuff, but it's very difficult sometimes to even recognize the good things that are happening? It's very difficult for those to really have an impact, even if we see them, we think, oh, okay, fine. Those are some good things, but so what? And it can be very difficult to build those relationships through gratitude because it's so much easier to see what people do wrong. It's so much easier to point out what they are doing wrong and what we can criticize than to look for the things that we can appreciate. And then it just feels so awkward if we start complimenting everyone. If we start really looking for the good things and saying, hey, I appreciate that, that can feel really awkward at first. It can be odd for us, and it can be awkward for the people we're complimenting. They may think, why are you doing this? Why are you saying that? Are you up to something? We can actually be suspicious of people that start complimenting us because we're just not used to it in our society. Again, there's a reason for that, so let me explain what that is. Our brains have basically a few important jobs that are wired in that we do not need to think about. Our brains are there primarily to keep us alive. And so, our heart beats without us thinking about it. We breathe without thinking about it. We don't have to tell our bodies to do this. We don't have to consciously think that our heart needs to beat. It just happens. Our brain is there to keep us alive, and part of that job is to protect us from harm. Now, the brain doesn't really make a huge distinction between physical harm and emotional harm. It just asks, is there danger? Is there some way that we can get hurt here? Not just killed, because our brains want to keep us alive, and our brains want to keep us from harm. And so if someone comes along and says something sort of snippy, because maybe they didn't sleep well last night, our brains are going to pick that up quickly. Our brains are going to immediately recognize, hey, listen to what that person said. That was out of line. And we're going to have those feelings of defensiveness because our brains will automatically assume there might be an attack coming. There might be some emotional harm from this person who's not in a good place and seems to be taking it out on us. And so our alarm system goes off anytime someone says something or does something that could cause us physical or emotional harm. Our brains do that automatically. We don't have to think about it. It is part of the natural process of keeping us safe. All that is called the primitive brain. You don't have to have any kind of development for that to happen. We're born with it. And humans always have it. That pretty much everything else other than keeping us alive and keeping us from harm has to be learned. We have to practice it. We have to learn how to do it because it's not part of the primitive brain. Your brain, the primitive brain, doesn't care if you're happy. Your primitive brain doesn't care if you have healthy, thriving relationships. Now, the primitive brain does care about procreation because that's part of keeping us as humanity alive. That's part of the primitive brain as well. Keeping us alive, keeping us safe from harm, keeping us alive as a species. And so when we have children, we want to keep them alive and safe from harm. There's a great deal of a protective nature that kicks in when we have children because that primitive brain wants to keep the species alive as well, in addition to keeping us as an individual alive and well. And so things like sexuality are a driving force of humanity, but having healthy, happy relationships, your primitive brain doesn't really care. That is a higher level of thought. It doesn't necessarily come instinctively or naturally. And so protecting ourselves will come naturally. Procreation is a driving force of humanity. Keeping us from harm is a natural instinct. But looking for the good things, being grateful for the good things of life, appreciating each other, saying kind things, building trust, complimenting one another, building up confidence for ourselves and others, building connections, building healthy, happy, thriving relationships, this has to be learned. It's not going to come like your heartbeat. There's not going to be alarm bells go off saying, hey, something good just happened. We better be grateful for that. No, that's not how the brain works. If something bad happens, the alarm goes off and says, hey, watch out. There could be danger here, either physical or emotional. But our brain is not going to set off alarm bells when something good happens. We have to look for that. That's why it's so easy to remember the bad stuff, because our brain files that away automatically to say, don't forget this. If this hurt, we're going to remember it, and we're going to make sure we avoid it in the future. And so when we've been through a bad experience, someone has hurt us, someone has betrayed us, someone has treated us badly, our brains are going to file that away. We're going to have an emotional response to that anytime we see something similar. So if you grew up with a parent who was abusive and violent, anytime you see someone get angry, the defenses are going to go up. The alarm bells are going to go off. And your brain's going to say, remember how bad that was. Remember how anger gets you hurt. But your brain isn't going to necessarily file away those good things your parents did. If you were raised by loving, caring parents that treated you right, your brain isn't going to be on guard for that, watching for it, saying, hey, that was something good, just like your parents used to do. Make sure you appreciate that. It's going to basically ignore that because it doesn't harm us, because your brain, again, your primitive brain, is there to keep you alive, to keep you from harm, both physical and emotional, and to keep the species alive through procreation and protecting children. And so if we are going to appreciate one another, if we're going to build that connection in our relationships, if we're going to build that trust, that camaraderie that comes with being grateful, if we're going to build the happiness that comes with gratitude, if we're going to experience the stress relief and all the physical benefits and the emotional benefits of enjoying what comes with gratitude, we have to practice it. It does not come instinctively. But here's the good news. Our brains can also learn. It doesn't have to be part of the primitive brain for us to learn how to do things. Almost everything we do in life is not part of the primitive brain. And so we can learn. The brain has a way of forming neurons and connections that build those pathways so that when we practice something, it gets easier. Remember the first time you did anything, tried to play basketball, tried to cook a meal, tried to plant a garden? It was awkward at first when you didn't know what you were doing. But as you practiced, your brain started learning to the point you didn't even have to think about it to dribble that basketball. It just came naturally after a while. You didn't have to think about it while you were cooking. You just sort of poured those ingredients in and knew exactly what you were doing. It came naturally after a lot of practice. That's how our brain works. We can have higher levels of thought. When we practice it, our brain gets better at absorbing this information and creating neural pathways for that information to run quickly so that we know how to do things more easily. Gratitude's the same way. When we spend time looking for the good things, again, our brain's going to easily look for the bad stuff instinctively. But when we, on purpose, look for the good stuff and are grateful for it, when we appreciate things on purpose, when we make sure we compliment people on purpose, our brains begin to look for that more. It gets better at the practice. And so after a while, it will become more natural to see the good things in life, to see the compliments that we can give people, the nice things that people do. And we can learn to take the good with the bad in life. It is not that the bad will go away. Of course there's going to be bad things happen. And yes, people are going to do things worth criticizing. And yes, sometimes we do have to be on our guard because there are abusive and toxic people in the world that will harm us. Those are all realities. It's unfortunate, but it's real. And so of course we have to watch for those things, but we'll do that instinctively. But let's not miss out on the good. We need to learn to take the good with the bad in life because there's plenty of good too. There's lots of things to be grateful for. And so, as we learn to do that, as we learn to practice gratitude, our primitive brains learn higher levels of thought. It builds new neural pathways to start more easily noticing the good things in life, more easily complimenting people where it doesn't feel awkward to do so, and building those healthy, happy, thriving relationships that come as we truly appreciate one another. Now, in the second part of the show, we're going to talk about some practical things you can do to help build those neural pathways, to build that skill set, some practical tips for making sure we know how to build that higher level of thought and live a life of gratitude. But first, I want to tell you about a special thing that's happening. If you listen to me on a regular basis, you know my book, Learning Love, is coming out in 2025 from Morgan James Publishing. I'm very excited about that, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes. I won't give a lot of details right now, but I want you to know that a partnership is brewing. When you buy my book, part of the proceeds of the purchase price will go to help children and families in remote areas of the world who are struggling with poverty, and we are going to have a method to help them. It's exciting for me to think that someone can read my book and learn the practical, tangible components of love and build healthy, happy, thriving relationships in every area of their life, and at the same time, through the purchase of that book, help children and families in poverty around the world. It's a very exciting time, and I'm glad you are listening, that you're a part of it. And so make sure you make plans to buy the book. Pre-orders will be available soon. I'll keep you posted. Now, in the first part of the show, we discussed that gratitude does not come naturally. It is not part of the primitive brain. We have to learn it. We have to develop the skill set. But our brains are very adaptable. We can build those neural pathways as we practice gratitude, and it gets easier. So let's talk about some ways to do that, some ways to practice gratitude in order to build that ability, to build those neural pathways for our brains to start seeing the good things of life, appreciating them, and expressing them to one another, to build our happy, healthy, thriving relationships that we want, need, and deserve. So, I made some notes that I want to share with you of some things that you can do to build up your gratitude ability and experience all those benefits. One, write things down. You know, we're very busy. We're very easily distracted. And so write things down. You can do it in a journal, or maybe have an area of notes on your phone, or if you work at your computer or laptop, put a post-it note up there, and when something good happens that you can be grateful for, just make a note. Keep a running list of good things that happen. And the more you do that, the more your brain will start naturally picking those up, seeing them. You won't be as distracted. The good things won't go unnoticed. Just jot them down, write them down, keep it as a journal, keep it as a list, keep it as notes, whatever you want to do. But writing it down helps us practice that art of gratitude. Taking some time for things like meditation or prayer. Thinking about those good things and making it a spiritual practice can be very powerful. People have different ways of expressing themselves spiritually, but making gratitude a spiritual practice can be a very powerful thing. So pause, take some time, and every religious tradition you might be a part of has gratitude as part of your religious practice. And so practice that. Make it a spiritual practice if you're a spiritual person. Don't ignore that. Make gratitude part of that practice through prayer and meditation. Express that gratitude. Make sure you tell someone. It's good to practice it in your own mind, your own heart. It's good to write things down, but tell somebody. That not only expresses it, it makes it more real to us when we say things out loud. Our brains file it differently. Our brains react to it differently. And it's more memorable, it's more powerful. Speaking things aloud has an effect. It also brings other people into the practice. It allows them to see the good things of life. It helps them to take time to notice. And everyone loves to be complimented. Everyone likes to be appreciated. It might be awkward at first, as I said earlier in the show, but that's okay. We can practice it. Compliment people. Let them know that you appreciate them. That will have an effect on your relationships. Consider doing things like volunteering, giving back to the community. Sometimes it's hard to see the good things of life because we're so self-absorbed, because we're putting up our barriers, we're trying to protect ourselves, and we don't take the time to help people that are in need. Now you might think, well, if I see all the things that people need, if I see the suffering in the world, isn't that going to make me less grateful? That's a logical line of thought, but it doesn't really work that way. When we are able to give back, when we are able to help people, when we experience the gratitude of others when we help them, when we're able to make the world a little better place despite the struggles of life, it builds our ability to see the good things of life. It becomes one of the good things of life. We become, and our actions become one of the good things of life, and we can experience the gratitude of being able to help those in need. Celebrate the small wins. Don't wait until something tremendous happens to be grateful. Don't just celebrate the big wins of life. Of course, if you get a promotion, you want to celebrate that. If something glorious happens, if you or one of your children or grandchildren graduates from college, of course celebrate those big milestones of life, but celebrate the little wins. Celebrate the things that might go unnoticed, but you worked for. You finished that project. You did that thing on your to-do list that you weren't really wanting to do. Be grateful for that. You check that off the list. Take a moment. It doesn't have to be a grand celebration. It doesn't have to be a big gesture, but take a moment just to recognize you did a good job there. Make sure you celebrate the little things, and those little things start to add up to big things over time. Do you like to take pictures? Are you a selfie junkie? Do you always take your phone out to snap a quick picture anytime something happens? Get in the habit of keeping a photo album of the things you're grateful for. Sort through those pictures and pick out the ones of the events and the moments that you truly appreciate, things you can really be grateful for. And take some time every now and then to just scroll through those pictures, looking at the things, those memories that you're really grateful for. Remember, your primitive brain is going to remember the bad stuff. It's going to file that away just fine. You're not going to have to work at it because it wants to make sure you never forget that terrible thing that happened so that we don't face that terrible thing again. The good stuff, your brain doesn't necessarily file away so dramatically and so well. It's easy to forget. It's easy to get it caught up in all the stuff of life and forget those little moments that we're grateful for. So take a quick picture with your phone and then take some time to scroll through those memories and be grateful for the good things that happen. Even those small victories, we celebrate them. Get into the habit of asking yourself questions like, what made me smile today? What did I find inspiring today? Or what did I take for granted today that I need to go back and remember and be grateful that that happened? Those kinds of questions, if we get into the habit of asking ourselves those questions, can begin to prompt our brains to remember, because it knows that question's coming after a while. We'll start to remember those things of what makes us smile, what do we appreciate, and what could we take for granted but we're going to choose not to because we want to live a life of gratitude with all its benefits. Share those good things. Maybe at mealtime, if you have the habit of having dinner with your family, or if you're getting together with friends for dinner or lunch or coffee, instead of just saying, how's the day going, or what did you do today, maybe ask something like, what good thing happened to you today? Tell me one good experience you had today. Tell me the funniest thing that happened during your day today. Now, of course, you could take some time to talk about the troubles and the trials and the hardships, and we can support each other in that. That's part of life too, but remember, we're taking the good with the bad. We're not ignoring the bad, we're taking the good with the bad. And so ask those questions and encourage people to ask them of you. Get in that habit as a group or as a family. What good thing happened today? What made you smile? What's the funniest thing that happened to you today? What did you really appreciate about today? As you get into the habit of asking those kind of questions, it's easier to see the answers as time goes by. Again, our brains start forming those neural pathways so that we learn to see them coming. And then maybe set a reminder on your phone. If you're really busy, you tend to get distracted easily, set a reminder on your computer, on your phone. Let it pop up that it reminds us to take a second, look for something good. Look for something to be grateful for. Take a deep breath, even if it's a bad day, and think about something good going on. Again, we're not ignoring the bad, but we're taking the good with the bad. So stop and think about it, and maybe that requires an alarm to go off on your phone or on your computer. It's not going to go off in your brain. That only goes off for the bad stuff. And so maybe set an alarm, use your technology for your benefit, and have that notification pop up reminding you to be grateful for something today. Look for something that you can be grateful for. These are just a few tips. There's lots of others. Do a quick internet search. There's lots of advice out there on ways to build gratitude. These are just a few that you can incorporate into your life, but make sure you incorporate some. Make sure you start building your brain in higher levels of thought, not just depending on the primitive brain to see the bad stuff coming, but build your higher levels of thought to see the good things, be grateful for them, appreciate them, express them, and enjoy all the benefits that come from that.
Thank you for joining me on the Learning Love podcast. If you're ready to live your life of love, visit my website, markahicks.com, to get my free ebook, The 5 Components of Love. And coming in 2025, my new book from Morgan James Publishing, Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters and Healthy Relationships That Last. Pre-orders will be available soon. And remember, love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. Love well, everyone.